On this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we talk about the Preachcore band Sleeping Giant. We talk about where Christianity fits in hardcore, if it even does. And we talk about how a band that can have a Bible study before a concert can still put on some of the craziest shows you've ever been to. Thanks for jumping on, and let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast. It's me, Josh, and I'm here with Trevor and Kyle. How you guys?
Good, man.
Good. Doing good.
How was that show last night, Trevor? You went to the Story of the Year, Page Avenue 20-year anniversary?
Yeah, man. So it was really fun. Great tour if they haven't come through your town yet, and you should go catch them. It's Youth Fountain opening, which I had very low expectations for and actually was very pleasantly surprised. And then 4 Years Strong. So it was just the three on the bill, no locals or anything like that. And the crowd showed out for them. It was on the small side of the complex, and it was so packed that people were actually standing in kind of the foyer area, just looking through the openings. So it was awesome, man.
I know when we talked about Neck Deep last week, new upcoming pop punk bands, I guess. I actually really like Youth Fountain. I don't know if I mentioned it in the last podcast, but I really like those guys.
I was super surprised. I haven't listened to them really at all. I thought they were way more poppy than they were. They're actually more like they are more poppy, but they're more in line with like a 4 year and set your goals type of style. Maybe not quite as punk, but definitely getting more towards that realm. So it was cool. They were just a 3-piece. The bass player up there was awesome. He was dancing around, having fun. Singer was great. Drummer was having at it.
One dude. And
Yeah,
those guys,
I think it's just him, and then they just come with him.
That's cool.
yeah, no, he's dope.
How I saw that 4-year covered Brain Stew again. I like that cover.
Yeah. Dude, that's a good cover. Listen, 4 Year is, at this point, I was thinking about it. 4 Year might be the band that I've seen the most times live. I could count. I'm pretty sure I can count 8 times that I can remember seeing them. And I'm sure there's other times that I've seen them. They're awesome. They're so fun. But listen, 4 Year, if this somehow reaches you, you cannot play Heroes Get Remembered, Legends Never Die 3 songs in. We're too freaking old for that, man. I was going to die on song number 3. So, listen, change the set. That needs to be your closer. Not wasting time. Play Wasting Time number 3.
You know what?
That's my opinion.
I'm going to disagree. I almost prefer that because then I can get the songs I want to hear, and then I can just go hang out in the back the rest of the set.
Oh my gosh, man. I was up front though, and I was singing along to everything. My wife, she's like 5'2", so we always push to the front for 4 Year because she really likes them and she likes to sing along. And if she's any more than 2 rows back, she can't see anything going on.
Yeah.
So we
sense.
pushed up, singing along, and dude, straight up, I couldn't breathe. I was like dying last night.
I was talking to a buddy the other day. I don't know if I got if getting older, I just have a shorter tolerance for people, or if I just realize as I got older, I just don't really like people. But yeah, when we went to Thrice, I was down to watch Artist in the Ambulance because I want to hear every song, but the majority of the songs I want to hear on the first half of that record. So I was like, okay, I'll stand me out. But if I was going to a normal show for them, or even Story of the Year, because it's the same. They're the first big hit songs are on the first half of that record are great. But when you've got to sit there and listen and deal with everybody else, you're like, well, I don't want to go in the back because I haven't played the song I want to hear yet. I got to sit and wait. I got to deal with everybody else's mess. But that's cool.
See, that was one thing is Story of the Year. They mixed it up. They didn't just play it front to back. They sectioned it out, which was kind of cool. It was fun. And then on top of that, they mixed in some new songs within Page Avenue too. So they'd play 2 Page, one off the new album. I don't know if you guys saw the clip I posted. They did a early 2000s medley where he's like, I don't know if you guys know this, but another band has Avenue in their album around this time as
Oh
well.
yeah, the emo night thing you posted.
Yeah. And he was like, and we're going to do it better. So they played Yellow Car, Ocean Avenue.
Ocean Avenue. That's
They
funny.
played Take You Back Sunday, Q without the E. They played My Chemical Romance, I'm Not Okay. And then he's like, and for you Utah guys out there, this one's special for you. The Used Taste of Ink. It was awesome.
That's
It was
awesome.
like a 5 minute medley, and it was perfect. It sounded so good.
That would have been cool to see. Did they still do like their backflips and stuff on stage, or they too old?
No, not quite that crazy. They were running around. They were super active, but
Mhm.
no, not quite that crazy these days.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. I saw him in 2006 at Club Ice with
He is legend, wasn't it?
he is Legend, and then Every Time I Die was supposed to play, and they dropped off, and then it was From First to Last. I think picked up the date,
Yeah,
and
I remember that show.
and yeah, I just remember I was 16 years old up front on that barrier the entire time Story of the Year played. I'm pretty sure that's where all my hearing damage came from, because like I remember
Sure.
like my eardrum just like rattling, and I never heard the same since. But yeah, I remember they brought out Love Sax and did like the throwing guitars and backflips and stuff. And I was like, this is sick. But
Yeah, they were
that's
fun
cool.
and they sounded really, really good live. I was very pleasantly surprised because I've listened to Story of the Year, but I pretty much know their hits.
Hmm.
Like they're not a band that I listen to Page Avenue front to back, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
But it was awesome. It was really fun. And they were actually a lot heavier than I remember too. They
right.
had some really good heavy parts. That show you're talking about, isn't that where you got that Story of the Year shirt, Kyle? Didn't you have the green Story of the Year writing shirt? Isn't it stitched into your blanket?
Yeah, I think so. I'll have to go look at it, and
I
I don't remember what color it was though.
I have an original Story of the Year shirt that I actually stole from this kid that we went to school with, and it was like way
Nice.
too big for me. And I will say it does fit now, and it's awesome. And I'm never
Nice.
getting rid of it. So that's cool.
Well,
Though.
you better not wear it to a show. Have
No, never.
someone grab the collar of it.
You would be proud of me. I bought a video game a couple weeks ago, but it is Hogwarts Legacy,
Oh, nice.
and
I've heard that game's great.
we've been training to be
I
wizards.
didn't like it that much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was way too much dialogue.
Yeah, it is.
It's a
Like
freaking
at the
game,
beginning,
dude.
it's weird, But
Yeah.
I think once you get past that and you get into like actually going to Hogwarts, it's a little different. But we're Harry Potter fiends in this house, so to me, I just like
Dialogue
it.
the whole time. That's cool. I think you'll like it. It's a fun game.
Yeah,
So
What'd you get it on?
just PS4. That's the only game
Nice.
console we have. I
Nice.
had a Super Nintendo, and my brother stole it, and I have yet to break into his house to steal it back. But I do plan on doing that. So, well, I didn't do anything music related. I did not go to the show. I was.
No, you went to the jazz game though.
I did go to the jazz game.
Your seats looked awesome.
they actually won too, which is
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good game. Like they were ahead the whole time, but only by like 3 or 4 points. So the whole time it's just like, come on, man! Like they would get like a 13-point lead, and they would go down to like a 3-point lead, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're gonna blow it. And it was like happening in the fourth quarter, and
That's fun though. Like those are good games.
yeah, and it's so it was a whiteout game. So when we showed up, they had T-shirts on every single seat.
Nice.
Isn't every game in Utah a whiteout game?
Come on, bro. Come on. We get enough crap.
Isn't that why Russell Westbrook hates playing there?
We get enough crap around the league from the NBA. A Utah native can't be saying crap like that. Come on, bro.
It's true though. I experienced it.
But
That's the game though.
we have it's a whole different team, a whole young team.
Yeah.
So I've been to 3. Well, I've been to more games than that, but I went to a game when I was a kid and got to see like Karl Malone and John Stockton play the Delta Center.
Nice.
And then I got to see when it was like, what was it? Rudy, so Gobert
And Donovan.
Donovan, and
Royce O'Neal.
no, he went to the Celtics.
Joe
Joe
Ingles.
Ingles.
He went to the Celtics and broke his ankle like the first game.
Oh, Gordon Hayward.
Oh, Gordon Hayward.
Hayward, yeah. So I got to see Hayward, and then last year I went and saw Donovan. I
Nice.
kind of got to see a couple different eras of him play, and like, so I don't know much of the players' names or anything. I'll be honest, I don't follow sports pretty much at all, but it's a pretty young team, and like they're good, you know.
They're entertaining. They are for sure.
Um,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've got like 300 first-round picks in the next couple of years. So
yeah,
Yeah, they do. We're
the
going to trade about 6 of them for Luca here in just a minute.
lucky.
that Dropkick Murphys tour with Pennywise. I saw that today. It looks like it got dropped yesterday, and the closest show is Idaho Falls.
That is such a weird stop.
I thought the same
Like-
thing. I could understand Boise, and I could understand Salt Lake. But Idaho Falls, that's a weird one.
It is weird.
There must be something up there taking them there. You know, Idaho is like sneakily, a lot of musicians live in Idaho.
Oh yeah.
It's a weird thing, but there's a lot of people up there.
Well, the towns are pretty small too. So like, you have, I mean, if you really think about it, you have Ogden, Utah, Pocatello, Blackfoot, and Idaho Falls, and even Twin Falls, and you're like a 2 to 2.5 hour drive between all of that. That's a closer drive than driving to St. George or even Cedar.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, listen to this. This is a weird show. So they end up in Portland, move over to Airway Heights, Washington. I don't know where that is. But then Bozeman, Montana. Going from Bozeman, Montana to Casper, Wyoming, which actually that might be closer to us than Idaho Falls.
No, Idaho Falls is closer.
Is it?
than Casper. Yeah.
And then Idaho Falls. And then they go out to Minnesota. Do they not want to play for people? Do they want their shows to be 50 people?
I wonder if there's like random pockets of like Irish settlements. And they're just hitting those. Is there a big like Irish population in Idaho Falls, in Bozeman, Montana?
I mean,
not that
They
I
might
know.
be like the only people outside of Bozeman, Montana that know where Bozeman,
listen,
Montana is.
if I was part of the IRA, I'd probably want to be hiding in somewhere like Bozeman, Montana.
Montana.
So, let's be honest, like it could very easily be part of that.
I'm just bummed they're not coming down here, so that pisses me off.
Yeah, I looked at that too, and I'm like, oh wow.
Closest to me would be like Nashville, Tennessee, and it's like a huge drive. So I kind of grew up listening to Pennywise and Dropkick Murphys, but that was like a little bit before my time, just a little bit. And you guys too. But I think that would be a super fun show to go to.
Yeah.
yeah,
be
I still
interesting.
see like I still listen to a lot of Dropkick Murphys, and I see their posts all the time. Their shows still look super wild. Like they still
Yeah.
show up for them. So
Yeah.
No,
With my in-laws moving back to Massachusetts, I think I'm going to try to coordinate going to a show out there at some point, and
Yeah.
it'll just have to be who I can see. I really want to see 4-Year back in Mass. We were talking with one of those guys on Instagram, and he was saying their like holiday show is
Mhm.
phenomenal. But could you imagine seeing Dropkick in Boston? Like we talked
yeah.
about it on the Dropkick episode.
it'd be
It would
crazy.
probably be just next level.
Oh yeah, it'd be wild. I think it'd be really
So-
cool. Well, do you guys have any show announcements or anything on your end?
Just the When We Were Young
Yeah,
festival, that lineup
full
was
albums.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
the
said it wouldn't happen. Plagues, front to back. The Devil Wears Prada.
Seriously. That was like when I saw that, I was like, yep, I don't have a choice anymore. And then A Day to Remember playing Homesick front to back. I don't think they've done that before. August Burns Red playing Constellations. I freaking love Constellations.
They could just
That
play
album's so good.
play Meddler and Whitewash over and over, and I'd be fine.
Seriously, dude. Whitewash. Oh my gosh, that song is so good. What were some of the other ones? Like Sailson. Have you
Yep.
seen the Cove has been performing with them again?
Yeah, so
Oh, really?
when they
Josh
announced
can
that they
suck it
were
because Cove is better.
no. when they announced that they were going to be playing again, that they would be having Cove sing for them.
Well, Anthony Green's with Ellis Dune now, and Ellis Dune's on that show too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I actually can almost guarantee Anthony Green will be up on stage with Seosin and Cove.
Probably.
He might. I could see him
But-
coming out to sing the older songs, but I'm sure he just didn't want to sing the newer ones. Maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know.
Well, it is the older songs, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Aren't
it's
they playing
only
the
the
EP?
self-titled, the sales
Oh,
and
it's the
self-titled,
self-titled.
which is their best album by far. So,
Okay. So
You mean
some of the other
after
ones like
translating
Jimmy?
the name?
No. We'll get it. I'm sure one of these days we'll talk about Saleson because there's a lot to be said there.
Yeah.
The
About how
Used
Cove
playing
sounds
In
good.
Love and Death. Jimmy Eat World playing Bleed American.
That would be really cool to see.
Census Fails playing Still Searching. Armor for Sleep. What to Do When You Were Dead.
which Census Fail playing Still Searching instead of Let It Enfold You, that's the wrong move.
Yeah.
Let It Enfold You is the right album for this show.
I like both.
I like both, but if we're talking the When We Were Young Fest, you got to be playing Let It Enfold You. I guess
Silverstein Discovering the
Guitar Hero.
Waterfront.
That's a good album.
That'll be good. It just says Fallout Boy, but I wonder what.
I think that's the one that they didn't announce an actual album for.
Which
And
is
so
the
there's some
headliner.
there's some speculation that they wouldn't agree to playing a full album front to back.
It's lame. Coheed with Good Apollo. I'm Burning Star 4, which
Ooh.
is their best album.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the most important one, and the whole reason why I'm really going, is they're only chasing safety. So
Yeah.
So sick.
it's going to be wild, dude. It's going to be absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
There's
When
also speculation that Take It Back Sunday is going to be showing up with Tell All Your Friends.
I would be perfectly fine never seeing that band live ever again.
Who?
Taking Back Sunday.
Why?
They're terrible.
Like lately they're terrible,
Oh,
or they've
yeah.
always been?
You should look up YouTube videos and then you can be ruined like I am.
I've seen them a whole bunch of times. I haven't seen them lately, but
Yeah. So, like, when we were younger, like, I don't know, 16, 15, 17, whatever, like, I remember them, like, being pretty good. Oh, yeah. Like, it's rough. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Being there though is different.
What?
Being there is different. Like watching a
they're playing the
YouTube
older
video.
album.
Yeah, exactly. Watching a YouTube video, sure. Like they might not be that great. Being in the crowd, I can guarantee you, Josh, you're singing there, singing word for word.
No, I think I would walk away. I actually did that. I think that I did that during Census Fail when they
Don't
came
act
to
like
the
you're
playoffs
too cool,
in 2007.
man.
No, I
is it
did
just
that.
because it's like it kills the memory of what they used to be, or
It's just bad. Like, music is bad. The singing is terrible. He's so drunk on stage he can't even. He's like slurring. It's just bad. Yeah,
Well.
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna leave that band in the vault of when I was like 17. Just hold them there, and then just
or
like
those like don't meet your heroes, you know?
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
don't see Taking Back Sunday
Yeah.
in 2023
You get-
or 2024.
I guess you guys make your decision. Watch a YouTube video of it and be like, you think like,
No.
I could stand that, or you
No.
might go,
They're playing
Don't
Tell
watch
All Your
YouTube
Friends.
videos.
They're playing Tell All Your Friends. I don't have a choice.
Well, let's put it
I
this way:
have
it wasn't even a YouTube video, but then I looked them up because it was actually like an Instagram reel. So you're just kind of scrolling through reels, and it came up. It was like, I remember Taking Back Sunday sounded like this when I was young, and then you could clearly like hear it, and you're like, oh, that's rough.
What if you just had like a bad day or something?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You're crapping on him for no reason.
No, so then I started YouTubing it, and there were multiple videos from different
What
shows,
if you
and
had
they were
bad
just
days
like,
on those days too?
yeah. Having a bad couple of years.
Yeah,
Listen,
what if he's had a bad 15 years, you know?
No,
Like,
they're
we're just fanboying over here. We're just giving you crap.
in
bro.
the
the new album
in-
blows though, so
in the threads. Yeah, multiple people were just kind of like, hey, he hasn't sounded good for years. And I'm like,
Well,
That's a
if
bummer.
Cove from Saleson can make a comeback, I think Adam can. So, because didn't Cove like absolutely fry his vocals and stuff?
I don't know. Here's the thing, though. I like Cove in what's that? What's his?
Saleson?
No, it's terrible. in Samson. His new band, American. Dead American.
Scary Kids, Scaring Kids.
No, Dead American.
Dead American.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you listened to them?
No.
So that's Cove. That's Cove's new band, and it's actually really good. I like it a lot. I like his vocals a lot.
He did tour with Scary Kids, Scaring Kids recently, so
Yeah, I remember that. I think Dead American actually toured with Seosin as an opener. I could be wrong on that, but anyway.
see,
Well,
I think guitarists can do double duty. I don't think vocalists can do double duty. Like that gets a little rough. That's a lot of singing
Yeah,
every night.
yeah. We have a drummer and pretty much share him between like 5 or 6 bands, and we have played shows where he has played every single set.
That's
that's
crazy.
got to be
Yeah.
exhausting.
I was like, dude, it'll be way easy. You set up one time, and then you don't have to go anywhere. It works.
You sit there. Literally just go plop yourself down for 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Good on him. That's crazy cardio.
Well, maybe see where I land up next year. Maybe when we're Young Fest might play in the cards. That'd be a cool one to see. But I remember when they first came out with that tour. We talked about going and stuff like that, and me and my wife were sitting like trying to buy tickets, and it sold out so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm actually glad we didn't, because that was the first year that they dropped the first show. Like, did you ever hear
Yeah.
about that? Yeah, so when we were Young Fest, when it first came out, they were looking at who put the actual show on, and like the credibility of that company was not great. So there was
It was right after the Travis Scott incident, wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah,
Ah,
same company.
Yeah.
And so there was like terrible winds that day. And so morning of terrible winds, there's no like announcement of the show being canceled. People are leaving their hotels, literally walking down to get in line, and that's when they looked online and it said show's canceled today due to high winds.
Yeah.
No refunds, no nothing. People flew out of state, out of the country, and so
I do remember this now.
all these bands came together and were trying to put on like little side shows in different casinos and stuff. The vocalist for Silverstein, I guess people who are a part of his like little Patreon thing, he invited a bunch of people up to his hotel, and Silverstein played an acoustic set. But then like all these shows kept getting shut down because like there was too many
geez.
people at capacity,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
yeah, it was just a nightmare. So
Interesting.
yeah,
This year went off with the hit without a hitch. It was a cool festival this year.
yeah,
Those scenes of the crowd looking at Blink and stuff were massive.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's cool though.
I don't know if I want to go sit in that.
Well, Kyle's looking at us watch. I think we need to start talking about the band we're
no,
going to talk about today.
I just got an alert, but we should talk about.
Sleeping Giant.
So my phone's not working, so I'm kind of going off of some hazy memory here of what I remember. So Sleeping Giant started from a band called Death Star X. I think they had 3 or 4 vocalists, and
Just
they
crazy, right?
Yeah, they were from the Redlands, which is out there in California, Southern California, or not too far from Orange County, around that area. From what I remember, is that Sleeping Giant's first show they ever played was the same day that Death Star did their final show, and I think it was also the same day that the vocalist for Sleeping Giant, Tommy Green, got married. Can you imagine like being in his position that day? Like, hey, I'm going to get married. I'm going to go play my last show, and I'm going to go play my first show all in one night.
That's interesting. I think they might have kind of ended in that 2006, 2007, but I don't think they broke up for long. Death Star X got back together and played through 2009 in the end. I think that Tommy just ended up sticking with Sleeping Giant, and instead of rolling with 3 vocalists, they, ended up with a measly 2.
Well, the
Heaven
guys
forbid.
the guys from X Death Star X also started a couple other bands, because didn't like Jesus Wept? Aren't they from
So Jesus
X Death Star
Wept
Wept?
comes from X Disciple X, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
All these X
because
bands.
so Death Star may have played a few shows past that, but as far as touring stuff, they were done because Sleeping Giants. I
Sure.
remember
Yeah.
Tommy, Eric Gregerson, and RJ, who played bass and guitar for Sleeping Giant. So yeah, there was 4. Those were 3 of the vocalists from Death Star. So
Gotcha.
they were all from Sleeping Giant.
Gotcha. I mean, they had 21 members roll through X Death Star
Oh
X.
yeah,
So you want to talk about other projects? There's probably 21 other projects, right?
oh,
So
for sure. But
They were sick though, dude.
yeah, so I thought what I find interesting about Sleeping Giant. They say I'm going off memory here from just to kind of give some background. Like I've been friends with Tommy for I don't know, uh,
at
12,
least
12,
15 years.
12, 13 years maybe. Probably
It's
going
been
on
longer
13.
than that.
I met him in 2011,
Oh, okay.
so about 12 or 13. Um, anyway, they started the band, right, and they came out with Dread Champions, and they did not. They wanted to tour with a reason. You know, they didn't want to tour just to tour to make money, things like that. They wanted like a purpose because the whole sole reason they, Sleeping Giant was even a thing was to like I don't know, worship, like heavy worship, which I guess you kind of maybe see more in Tommy's new project, Holy Name.
Yeah.
And so from what I remember, he told me that like, they had tons of like tour offers and they just kept turning them down. And then they basically said, if you want us to tour, then like it needs to be like with some kind of purpose and like in our way. And that's when they introduced Scream the Prayer Tour.
Nice.
And that was the first tour that I'm aware of that they went on, which was in 2008. And I remember when that tour rolled through here in 2008, it was absolutely insane. Do
Dude,
either of you guys remember that show?
that
Yep,
was
I
one
do.
of the funnest shows I've ever been to. That, what was it, Club 600 or something like that? Isn't that what the venue was
Studio
called?
600 with the
Studio
wood floor,
600.
Studio 600.
Yeah.
Yeah.
with the little corner stage.
Oh, dude,
Yep.
it was so sick though.
Yeah,
I think I remember you sneaking in the back, Josh.
might have. I'm sure I did.
We're past the statute of
Yeah.
limitations. All right.
My most memorable thing about that doesn't even have to do with the band, but like I remember that tour was coming through, and like I can't remember all the bands, but I remember like it was like Sleeping Giant, Pending Doom, Blessed by a Broken Heart,
War of Ages.
War of Ages at Graceful.
Haste the day, with blood comes cleansing.
I
Here
don't
I
think
come following.
I don't
The
think
kiss
Haste
Haste
the Day
of
wasn't on
Jersey.
there.
I don't think Haste the Day was on there.
Maybe not on our stop, but they were at some point on there. This is,
Hmm.
I have the lineup pulled up.
Right.
So I'm just sorry, I'm reading through it for
Yeah.
anyone listening.
But my most memorable thing was Eric Armstrong bought one of those.
Name drop.
Who cares? Who cares? He'll probably never listen to this anyway. He bought one of those scooters that was just fast enough that like you could drive on like back roads, but like you couldn't drive on the freeway. I don't know what CC.
Like a moped.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 50 cc or something like that. And
Okay.
well, I didn't have a ride to the show, and so like I remember I got dropped off at his house, and we rode that moped from Centerville. People who don't know Centerville, we rode it from Centerville all the way to Salt Lake. We took
Did you
back
guys
roads.
really?
Yeah, we doubled up. I rode on the back. Neither of us had helmets. And we took the back roads all the way onto Beck Street and went.
That
all
would
the way
take like
to
an
just-
hour.
Oh yeah, it took a long time.
God. Just again, for reference, for people who's wondering, Centerville to this venue was like 15 minutes by car.
Yeah.
Like tops.
Yep.
On the
kind of
freeway.
thing.
Yep, rode the moped all the way. And then I remember, I think later that night, I think I actually went up with both you guys. We went up and ate at the Pie, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So
Dude, that was such a good show. That was so fun.
Yeah.
I remember this tour like specifically because I remember Blessed by a Broken Heart playing during the day.
Yep.
Their lasers and like smoke machines wouldn't work, and I was super bummed by that. I remember My Children, My Bride because I want to say this is around when their first album came out, right? And we were all playing a bunch of Halo and they had that Headshot song.
Mm-hmm.
So
So we
fun.
were all like obsessed with it. So good. And then I remember Impending Doom, they come out and they're like, the guy's like, it's Brooks, right? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Brooke Reeves. Yeah.
Yeah. He gets up and he's like, we did not evolve from monkeys.
The-
God created us.
So, yeah.
Like, yeah, this is so sick. Whether you believe that or not, it just was super. This whole, and I wanted to ask you guys this, and I don't know if this is the right time, but this whole like dichotomy of just deathcore heavy music and then this like super Christian message, it was just always, it's always been hilarious to me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, are you gonna finish that thought? Like,
Well,
my question is like,
no,
what
I
do you
didn't know if
guys
we were
think
gonna. I didn't know
about
if we
it?
want to get. I didn't know if I was interrupting or we were gonna stop. But okay, I'll ask the question. Like, a lot of people online say that there's not a place for hard, like Christianity or religion in general in hardcore music, and like we don't have to get into like the specifics of religion and stuff. But like, I feel like the best music at this time period was a lot of these like Christian hardcore, Christian deathcore
Mm-hmm.
bands. So like, I feel like it absolutely had a space in it, but nowadays people really push back on that and you don't see it anymore. So is there a spot for it or is it just kind of grown out?
I think it's grown out, but not because like just because it's not popular. You know what I mean? Like I think it's still there, but it's just not the focus of hardcore anymore. And I think it really comes down to the specifics of what your beliefs are. I mean, like you guys probably would both agree that like, you know, you need to have like reverence and order, right? So you know, you take a boomer for example that probably like views that as like, you know, you need to be quiet, you need to have your arms folded and blah 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 blah. Okay, well, 90% of us that go to hardcore shows don't understand that, you know. like
Yeah.
like we just don't, you know. And so you get somebody up there that's like, hey, like you can be wild and like you know, I think it was a cool idea of basically saying there's not a wrong way to worship if that's how you want to, but it may not be for everybody either. But I do think
Sure.
like it attracted a lot of hardcore kids and pulled them out of dark places and stuff and kind of gave them a different light. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think that my opinion on it is let's just, it's not even like the Christian hardcore, not even the Christian metal scene, right? But like specifically focused lyrically wise bands, I just feel like it's fads, kind of, you know what I mean? I think the one that's lasted the longest is straight edge. Like straight edge has become ingrained into the hardcore community, but the bands that actually like there are not very many like straight edge bands who last like a really long time with the completely straight edge focused lyrics. There are the heavy hitters, but there are a lot of bands who will come, they'll show up with the X name X, right? And then they're gone within 6 months. So anything that is like heavily focused on one specific topic or things like that, I just don't think is going to last for a long time because the world changes, opinions change, communities change, whatever it is, everything's changing on a consistent basis. Christianity changed drastically over the last 10 years. What people accepted in terms of Christian beliefs compared to today are dramatically different. Again, we don't need to get into a religious topic here, but I think the same thing Christian, straight edge. I'll go in the other way. You have Behemoth, who's anti Christian, right? Like all that kind of stuff, it just comes in waves and it just is going to fizzle out at some point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just thought it was interesting that people say because the basis of what hardcore stands for, that there's not a place for Christianity in it. I don't really know that I agree with that.
So
I
what is that basis? What is the
just
theory of the basis?
the attitude of hardcore, the like being against like establishments, being against being told what to do, a lot of it's political leaning, right? I mean, for the like majority of punk and punk related music, like hardcore, where it came out of, is very like left leaning, atheists, not really into like organized religion. You know what I mean? So that's like the argument that a lot of these people were making was that like, no, it shouldn't have a place there because that's not very hardcore of it if you're worshiping God. So
Mm-hmm.
like,
Sure.
and again, I'm not talking one way or the other because like what my beliefs are or whatever, it doesn't matter. What's interesting is that like you said, Trevor, a lot of these bands that used to be these big Christian hardcore metalcore bands don't do that anymore. Right? You
Right.
look at like Under Oath. You even look at like Fit for a King. Fit for a King has a freaking music video where they baptize a guy in it. And they just came out saying that like they're not a Christian band.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder, like we've talked about this a little bit before, but the pressure that some of these labels put on, like Face Down, where I think Sleeping Giant started with, you had to be an openly Christian band to be a part of that label. I
Mm-hmm.
wonder how much of it was just, pushed on them or they felt like they had to because they got recognized by Face Down. And so they're like, all right, we'll play along until we get big. And
Yeah.
then I guess it doesn't matter. I will say, however, though, Sleeping Giant seems to be one of the few bands that have actually walked the walk. They've done it. They're very preachy, right? Listening to all their music, they're very preachy. But I don't feel like they're like very aggressive about the fact that they are. I mean, they have a song with the guy from Amur.
I know.
Amur's like super anti-religious, right? So it's like they garnered the respect of people in the scene, said what they felt like they needed to say. Like you said, Josh, Tommy had a message. He said that message and people were cool with it,
Mm-hmm.
whether they agreed or not. So I don't know. It's just a lot of stuff that I thought about this
Listen,
like big
I
focus
think
of
I think
Christianity.
majority of bands that are Christian bands are like they're in a Christian band, but not a band full of Christians. That's where I think Sleeping Giant kind of broke that wave. But I also kind of think they were, I don't want to say the first ones to do it, but I think they were the first band to be like this, to do it, that started this massive trend of, oh, this is the cool thing to do. Let's be a Christian band.
they were pretty early on. I think that Scream the Prayer Tour specifically created this wave
Mm-hmm.
of Christian metalcore, Christian hardcore, and things like that. But just really quickly on your point of hardcore anti-establishment, taking lyrics straight from Sleeping Giant, I will worship for an audience of one. Putting it right there. If you want to talk about I don't give a crap what you have to think, Sleeping Giant is the band who's going to say, I don't give a crap what you have to think. I'm
Yeah.
doing this for myself. And again, we're not going to get
No, I mean,
into a
yeah, I mean,
religious
look,
discussion, but
right. So, like, honestly, being like where we grew up in Utah, right? It's no mystery the religious influence that we had growing up in Utah, right? For people that grow up in the deep South that have very deep religious influences in those cultures and stuff, this type of music gives these kids an outlet to experience new things in life that they're not ever going to.
yep.
And that's what a lot of people counter argumented online was like, if you're a kid from the deep South that has to go to church every day of the week and sing, all those songs and stuff that you don't know any other life, but you find a Christian hardcore band, well, that opens up a lot of doors and a lot of the world to you. So we shouldn't, even if you disagree religiously about Christianity or whatever, you shouldn't like deny the effect that this music can have on kids of pulling them into a more inclusive,
Sure. A scene.
space, yeah, a better scene. So I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox, but I just thought that was interesting.
Well, it actually kind of leads me into my next thing. So like we'll talk about the albums in a little bit, but uh, how many times have you guys seen Sleeping Giant?
Twice, I think.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
Okay. So what was cool about being able to see this band as many times as I did? I think I've seen them like 6 or 7 times. And each time it was like a different setting. Just totally different. So Shreeing the Prayer, first time they come through here, it's absolutely bonkers. It's just insane, right? No crazy fights or anything, but like it was an aggressive show, hardcore kids, but then also had a mixture of like worshiping. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched YouTube videos of that show from 2008, but like, you can find them on Grudge City, but like they have every song recorded and you can kind of see the different settings of how the crowd reacts for every show. And there's a little bit of everything. Um, but I got to see them, to your point of the lyric, like I'll worship for an audience of one. I did get to see them play up in Park City.
Oh, weird.
They played at a church, It was not a very it was just them. So they did like an opening like lesson, I guess you could say. Or like a Bible study almost. And then they got up and they played, but they didn't play like any of their heavy stuff. They played more like on the worship side of their songs. And like there maybe was 20, 25 people there, maybe. And like it wasn't like hardcore kids. It was like old people and just normal people. You know what I mean? They weren't there to see hardcore show. They were just there to worship. So it was a totally different setting of the show. And but then I saw them play when they came through with Bleeding Through and Born of Osiris on like more of an actual tour package, and that was pretty cool to see them there. And then the last time that I got to see them was their California shows. They played the Glass House and they played Chain Reaction. Both super incredible shows, but that was like the last hurrah, and both shows sold out. But yeah, so they did a lot of tours, and not like your typical let's go on tour with all these bands tour. Like they toured a lot of third world countries. They did a lot of worship things like that, and they sometimes they'd be gone for 2-3 weeks. They did New Zealand. I wanted to say Zeppelin, but I don't know.
New Zeppelin.
Yeah. No, they went out to New Zealand. They did a lot of just outright we're doing whatever we want, and they did what, like you say, they did what they wanted to do, and the accomplishment of the band was to like bring the presence of God to these places, at least, and do their whole thing. They weren't the traditional, Christian band like Norma Jean or Under Oath going, oh, we're just gonna hop on another US tour and we're gonna headline, nothing wrong with that, but like that's where I feel like these guys set like a new bar of like, no, we're just gonna go do this. We don't really care about the fame. We just want to go here. So, what do you
Yeah,
guys think
no,
about that?
they definitely walk the walk. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Dread Champions. When I first heard this record, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of thrown off by it.
I
The
remember listening to this record with you very early on. You had kind of recently just picked it up, and I'll be totally honest, this was too far out of my wheelhouse at the time.
yeah, the bass tone was harsh. It was really hard for me to adapt to it because this in the same time, this 2008, I was playing with a few kids out of high school that were very far in the other direction of like very high production, and so when I heard this record, I'm like, the mix is terrible, this is blah blah blah, and I was like too focused on all this stuff that didn't really matter of what that song was going on. But the one song that I really clinged on to was Whoremonger. Like I remember
Yeah,
that
that song
Yeah.
is so good.
that first riff comes in, I'm like, oh man, this is so good. Kind of where I started latching on to this band, and kind of after meeting Tommy as well. Like this dude had no problem putting all of his problems, all of his mistakes, future, present, past, on the platform in front of everybody, and didn't, he never wore a mask, which I felt like was a huge problem with a lot of other bands around this time. Like for instance, the As I Lay Dying singer, right? They're the Christian band, and
Ah,
find out a while later he's hiring a hitman, murder his wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Tommy, to me, like had no problem putting any of that out, and that you could really connect with the guy. And he never acted like a rock star. Kind of where I started kind of clinging onto this band really hard.
yeah. You talking about Tommy not acting like a rock star. I've only met Tommy a couple of times. I went to a couple Bible studies with you. And the first time I ever met him is I was wearing a pair of Nikes and I walked up and they had a pink bottom. He's like, dude, pink bottom Nikes? Those are sick, man. And like that was my literal first interaction with Tommy Green.
Yeah,
Like he's just a down to earth. He's a cool guy. He has zero ego to him.
yeah,
Like what you hear, what he says, it's true. Like he's literally using his music to worship, to preach,
Hmm.
to do what he believes in. And there's something, it's what we hope hardcore, it's what we hope the music we listen to is. Like these guys live and breathe what you would hope a musician would be,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he was really fun to watch, listen to teach Bible studies, just because he's such a personal person or personable person. Even just in conversations with him, he's I could listen to you talk forever. But yeah, but you can hear a lot of it through his vocals in this record in specific. Um, but you had what else they had? Behold the Pale Horse. The song "Don't You Judge Me." Is that what it's
Which is
called?
Blame It on the Holy
Blame
Rollers.
It on the Holy Rollers. I at this point in my life now, I can listen to this record front to back. Like it's just all of it to me is just good now. Now, when I first started listening to it, there was like a few, but now I can listen to the whole thing all the way. What about you,
The
Kyle?
last two songs
They're a little slow.
Yeah.
are a little slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up is the rest of this album is so good and it is freaking heavy. And then you get to those last two songs, and I get it. I get what those songs are, right? And I appreciate them, but it's hard going from the 12 other songs on it to just jump right into those. So,
That's
Yeah.
incredible. One of
yeah.
there was a show I got to see him at. I played at this venue called the Salt Shaker, and they were introducing a new song. I'll talk about
Sons of
it.
Thunder.
Yeah, this is Kingdom Days New Age. So Sons of Thunder. Let's talk about that one. So this is the
Yeah.
follow up after.
So
What did you guys?
this is actually where I started to get into Sleeping Giant. Gang Signs coming right out of the gate. Gang Signs is a dope song.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is where I started to catch on. This is a couple years later, 2009. My taste had gotten heavier over those couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to kind of go back to Dread Champion and Sons of Thunder. I really liked. Kingdom Days is where Sleeping Giant like solidified for me though.
Mm-hmm.
But these two albums definitely had the songs where I was like, okay, they were introducing me more into heavier music.
Right.
Sleeping Giant played a part in that for me.
Yeah. My question to you, Josh, especially after listening to Sons of Thunder, is how much did Sleeping Giant riffs off of this album affect your musical writing?
Dude, this uh it gave me a different way to like kind of write heavy but not be heavy.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. No, yeah.
Because around this
Because I
time,
listened.
like I don't know, there were other popular bands that were like intentionally just breakdown heavy, like Ruckus or Amir. You know what I mean? They'll play we're just gonna play a riff and then we're gonna do an intentional breakdown. And these guys were just like the riffs were heavy, everything was heavy. Like I want to mosh the whole thing. Yeah, I when this record came out, Sons of Thunder, the song that I got into the most was "No One Leaves This Room Sick."
Mm.
Like, and I mean, it has like a pretty typical end breakdown, but man, that whole song is just heavy. Even just coming in with the double bass and stuff like that, just like a simple guitar
Yeah.
riff. And then the other song that I really attached to was "Confession." I don't know if you guys remember that song at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
The what catches me off guard is like how so this I wouldn't say the lyrics are rough, I guess, unless you fully like understand them. But like when they're gonna preach and do however they want, they mean it. And so like the last like vocals during the breakdown are "Jesus cover me in your blood." It's pretty wild. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
that's pretty dark, but like I even like the slow song "He Will Reign." That's the piano one.
So, did you guys like? I actually, I don't know. I feel like I preferred his like actual screams on these first two albums more than kind of
Yes.
just the singing, yelling. Do you feel the same way, or do you like the singing, yelling on the later albums?
No, I like Dread Champion vocals and Sons of Thunder.
I'll be honest, might be my favorite album by them. I actually super like I Am,
Mm-hmm.
and I like his vocals on it. I really like Tommy's screams and stuff like that, especially these early albums.
Mm-hmm.
But I Am like it did it for me. I really like that album.
I will say some of the
Yeah.
singing that you'll hear on Dread Champions and some of it on Sons of Thunder, like the I don't know what you call it, like the heavy singing. You know what I'm talking about?
Old
Yeah.
Man
It's
Metal.
like chanting,
That's
singing.
actually from I think
Oh,
both RJ and Eric Gregerson.
Okay.
So the
nice.
light singing is Tommy, but yeah. So they played this show. That's where I was getting to. I was jumping ahead. They played this show at the Salt Shaker, and they were introducing a new song. They're like, "It's gonna be our new record. We're gonna play out blah blah blah." And then this was the introduction to the next record, which was Kingdom Days in an Evil Age, and they played "Tithemy," and that was the first time I got to hear that.
Okay.
And that was just live. That is a really fun song. So you
That's
just
a
kind of
sick song.
yeah, you just kind of jump around. And you just I don't know, it's just fun. And then I remember they dropped this whole record. I remember so before this record actually dropped, Tommy came to Bible study and he had the whole record, and we were like, just play it. And so he plugged in his iPod and he played it through like the speakers or whatever. So you had to listen to this whole record before it was released.
Sick.
And yeah, when he started playing like Dead Man Walking, Eyes Wide Open, The Cross of Suicide to the me, I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this record, Kyle?
I liked it. I mean, you do feel the sound change a little bit, especially in the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Sleeping Giant that I knew as well. I did like the older ones, but I've listened probably more to the last three they released, Kingdom Days, Finished People, and I Am, more than I did the first two.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I hear this album, I'm like, yes, this is the Sleeping Giant that I'm comfortable with. So
If
I don't know that I think I'm with Trevor. I still think that I Am is better.
mm-hmm.
Um, but this album smacks, dude. It's so good.
Right. What about you?
I, I will say, like, album wise, I Am, like I said, is probably like really high up there. But Eyes Wide Open with the Amir Frankie vocalist, gosh dang, man. I don't know if they, in my, like, in terms of heavy songs, this was by far my favorite Sleeping Giant song
Mm-hmm.
they put out. I love that song. But then to go straight into The Cross's Suicide, like that song too is just like this. It has like a 3 song stretch right there. Then you get the ICXC, which, was fine. And then you get To The Me. Like there are just really, really good Sleeping Giant songs on this album.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's really hard to get the two different conflicting vocals done really like well on a song.
While he's doing that, one thing that I wanted to point out, often on features, it's a very small snippet, right? They might have just like one part. The fact that Frankie is on Eyes Wide Open from the beginning to
Yeah.
the end set this song
Mm-hmm.
apart.
And like I was saying, the conflicting vocals is really hard to get right. The only other person or band that I've seen do it really well that we talked about a couple weeks ago was Kubla Khan, where Scott Vogel from Terror, because there's something about the contrast in the vocals that's done so well. And in Eyes Wide Open with Frankie from Amir, it just fits so perfect, the back and forth with his
Mm-hmm.
like super high scream to the really like low growl. I was like, this couldn't have been done any freaking better.
I read somewhere, and I could be wrong, but that Frankie from Emir, to give you an idea how what kind of vocalist he is that when he went up and recorded with the producer Joey Sturgis, he's the guy that did like Of Mice and Men, Attack Attack, had that kind
Everything.
of that he did his. I'm pretty sure he did almost all of his vocals in one take.
Oh, sick.
I'm like
That's
pretty
interesting.
sure.
That's cool.
Yeah, I remember on this record. I don't remember who all was supposed to be on it. They were supposed to have a ton of guest vocals on it, and Frankie was like one of the only ones that showed up. So
You
That's
know,
cool.
that's one thing about these guys is they typically have a lot of guest spots. And
Yeah.
it's way dope. Like
mhm,
that's another thing about Sleeping Giant when you're talking about Christianity and stuff like that, it's a very inclusive thing. And I think that even by just doing guest spots, right? It's one of those things that it's like, hey, let's be very inclusive in
mhm,
what we're doing. We don't care if you're Frankie from Amir or we don't care if you're Maddie Montgomery from For Today,
mhm.
right? We'll go Preachcore to Deathcore. Like we don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's sick. It's awesome the different guest spots that they've had on these.
So I'm gonna throw kind of a curveball in this record. My favorite song off this record is "Enthroned."
Okay.
I think that's actually my favorite slowest song that they've ever done. A little bit of piano again, but like it's just got like a vibe to it that makes me want to. I don't know. I could definitely listen to it before I squat. Let's put it that way. It can definitely like get my hair standing up on my arms.
Really?
Hmm.
You would
Yeah,
listen to this
those
before
physical
working out?
Yeah,
reactions, bro.
dude, yeah, that's a good song. So finish people. We're almost to I am. This record has tons of guest spots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, some old, some new. You got like Levi the Poet, Bruce LePage, Brooke Reeves, a few others that I'm not as familiar with. But Bruce LePage, it's the vocalist from Hunter Demons, and in the eyes of the Lord. How to that was on Death Knell, and he's also on the I Am record as well, which was one of
Yeah.
the first releases that they did. Um, so this record, I will say, I think is probably my least favorite out of the four. But I think it had a lot of weird or not weird meaning. It had a lot of deeper meaning. So like the song Brothers Keeper was specifically written lyrically for about Tommy and his two brothers, Connor and Ryan, which I think is pretty cool. But the song Clutches is sick. What do you guys think about this record?
Yeah, like it. Finnish people. The intro after like the spoken word part is so sick.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got really good songs. I felt like they were maybe like still trying to figure out like you can see the progression, right? And you see this with all these bands. You can kind of see the progression of the sound change. And I feel like finished people, they were still trying to decide like how to really make the like preach core,
Mm-hmm.
I guess what they call it, really work, which I think they like perfected in I am. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like you can tell that they're kind of experimenting with other stuff. And I might be wrong, but that's at least the vibe I get listening to it is they're still trying to kind of like stretch themselves and I don't feel like they really hit their stride on this type of sound till I am, but it's a
Right.
good album.
I mean, overall, I do think it's the weakest entry that Sleeping Giant put out. I think that it has, again, really good songs and stuff like that. And we've said this about so many bands. Their weakest album could be a number of bands' strongest albums. Like, by no means is it a bad album, but I just think that the other ones did it for me more than this one. And I'll be honest, 2014, I wasn't listening to a ton of this kind of music and stuff. So this one got lost on me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't listen to this album until this week when we were prepping for all of this. So I think that that's probably part of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other albums, all four of the other albums, I was familiar with. I knew songs and everything. So I probably is more of a familiarity and comfort thing for me.
Mm-hmm. This is just speculation for me, but so this would be realistically, if you don't include I Am, technically the last record that Sleeping Giant wrote. They only had two member changes throughout their whole lineup. They had a new drummer sometime after Sons of Thunder, I believe, and so their new drummer lives in Texas, and then their bass player I think left right around the same time or right after Kingdom Days and Evil Age. So they had a new bass player. To my understanding, so like the only reason I know they went to New Zealand is because, and you're probably both looking at me like you're an idiot, but uh, so I was actually asked to go to New Zealand to play with them. My health wasn't good, finances were not lining up, stuff like that, so I turned it down. And they just made it,
Yeah, you're an idiot.
right. But this is around 2012, 2013, I think.
Sure.
And I just like I don't. They said they were just having like a hard time trying to get everybody to tour and stuff like that, and like get moving, and seemed like family and stuff like that just became more prominent. I mean, I think all of them are married and all of them have kids. Like I think Tommy's got like 4, something like that, and he lives here. Some of them live in California, some live in Texas. So I think it just kind of became like we just, we need to just kind of do something different, whatever that was, whatever. Which led into their final announcement shows at the very beginning of 2018. And so the last record, this is where this record is interesting to me. So I can't remember if you told me or if it's on. There's a YouTube video, I think, of like the Sleeping Giant like final interview where it explains more about this record. But if I remember correctly, the guitars were written in California and recorded. Those files got sent to their drummer in Texas, and he recorded drums to them. He sent them to Tommy, and he was the last one to hear the final product. So like,
Nice.
none of them like knew. They were just on that like, okay, see how it goes, And I thought, I'm like, man, this record is so good. I'll just go ahead and say right now, my favorite song off that record is "No Love" with Garrett Russell. I think
It's a good song.
I think that song is sick. But yeah, I'm like, then I instantly just got bummed because I'm like, they're not going to tour on it. And then might get lucky and they might play a few songs off it, which they played Preachcore Lives, which is pretty cool. The other thing I thought was interesting too on the final show they actually, besides the second drummer, they actually had both bass players there. The new bass player played the first half of the set. The old bass player played the second half of the set, which I thought was super cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Well, I mean, coming from Death Star, they're
actually
they're no
switching members around all the time anyway.
Members are having 50 people on stage with them, kind
right.
of thing.
So I don't know. I only know a handful of them, but I'm pretty sure all of the original Death Star members were there.
Oh, sick.
So, but yeah, it was a super cool experience. The show was Sleeping Giant, Advent, which was sick. Those guys are amazing. And then my band, Crow Killer, played, and then Matt's band, Iron. Oh man, if you ever
Don't
listen
even remember your friend's band name.
If you ever
Come
listen
on,
to
bro.
this, he's gonna punch me in the face. Man, I can't remember. I'd have to look up the flyer. Wow, SF, dude, I'm a crappy friend. Anyway, anyway, yeah, it was a super awesome show. But yeah, this was a good record to end on. But I am really bummed that they never got a chance to tour on it. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah. I really like this album. I like the features on it. One thing that I've appreciated with Sleeping Giant is like, and this is me, Kyle, in 2023 talking. You guys know my woes with metal music currently. For some reason, I just can't get into it anymore. So I appreciate that they're not like, look, dude, I used to love War of Ages. War of Ages is dope, but like that type of metal, like Christian metalcore, I can't really do right now. It's just not my thing. And so I appreciate that Sleeping Giant is like still super heavy and not cheesy metal.
Mm-hmm.
They were very unique in the sound that they had. Like they weren't beat down, but they had a lot of beat down stuff to it. They weren't metal, but they had a lot of metal stuff to it. They still did a lot of hardcore. Like the closest band I could think of would be like Incendiary.
I completely agree. I think that they ended on as high of a note as you could possibly end on. I don't know if there's many bands that put 5 records out that end on that 5th record, and you're just like, you guys messed up. Like you guys, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But like you said, everyone's getting older. Everyone has kids, families. It was getting more difficult. Tommy's gone on to do Holy Name. I don't know about the rest of the members, but gosh dang, man, it was so good.
Yeah.
I Am is such a good album. And overall, like Sleeping Giant, phenomenal. Took me a minute to get into. Dread Champions in your old school caddy scared the living crap out of me. It was way too heavy, but I do have very fond memories, very specifically of listening to this band and
seeing him
it's
live.
great. Oh yeah,
Like seeing him live and him up there like preaching, and then like being scared that I'm gonna die at the same time. And it's like, well, I guess if I die, at least I'm here like with faith.
Go to heaven.
Like, what a good time to die, like praising the Lord.
right.
Yeah, it was a good show to end on. Good thing to end on. Yeah, he has this new project, Holy Name. It's got some interesting people that they're all still involved. Like Eric Regerson, Brooke Reeves, even the guy from Advent, which I don't know if you know this. Advent is actually all the original, well, most of the original members from a band called Beloved.
Nice. Yeah.
Nice.
Kind of interesting.
Beloved was dope.
Yeah. And then the lead singer for Korn, I can't remember his name. He's
Oh yeah, I forgot he's in that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like a born again Christian and sober and all this stuff. So kind of interesting. And then I know the original drummer not the original drummer for Sleeping Giant plays in Holy Name as well. So, but yeah, I think that's their new project. I don't think anybody else is really doing anything, but.
So were they, I know we're running a little long and stuff, but were they a thing like back east and stuff?
Sleeping Giant?
Yeah. Because like the few listeners we have and some of those out on the East Coast, are they going to be like, oh yeah, I know Sleeping Giant? Or most people going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about unless you're from Cali or Utah.
No. So Sleeping Giant kind of carries the name, in my opinion, over from Death Star and Courage Crew. So that's kind of like what they're would probably back east be associated with.
Did Death Star carry the name back east? I guess that's my question. Like, I don't know the history of Death Star really.
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, because
if someone knew Death Star, they'd probably know Sleeping Giant kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're rolling up on almost hour 20. I know we spent half the time arguing about how Cove sucks as a front man, but
yeah, we're just gonna cut that.
Yeah, because it's blasphemy.
So anyway,
okay.
Whose turn is it next week?
Me.
Kyle.
You gotta.
Yeah.
So this one, I've already got it picked out, and I'm doing it in honor of Trevor.
Is it D?
We're gonna do 100th.
Oh my god!
And we are going to once and for all put to rest this idea that you have to change your name.
I'm going to have 100th different band names, 400 that they could have chosen instead of keeping their stupid name.
Look, they're a dope band, so we're going to talk about them.
They better be good, man.
And we're going to get in real good to having to change your name because
I like 100th.
You do?
I like 100th, yeah. I've seen them play a few times.
Yeah.
Old or new?
Both.
Exactly. That is the answer. Thank you. No, that is the answer.
All right.
All right.
Well, have a terrible episode next week. Goodbye.